then you're misinformed. But if you do take that approach and you go and say, I'm going to talk about creationism and evolution theory, then which creation story do you present? In my religious background, there are 11 creation stories. Which one do I pick?
I don't know why that's relevant. We're here to talk about education, and I don't know why my religious beliefs or lack of religious beliefs would at all be relevant to this
I think it's
topic.
relevant to the panel discussion today.
Why? Why? We're here to talk about science education, not to talk about our personal religious beliefs.
Well, it comes through.
I am not religious. It's not a secret. I am a public figure, so it's quite easy. I'm not religious. I'm not anti-religious, but I don't think the beliefs or lack of beliefs of my colleagues need to be publicly exposed. Religion is a private matter for most Americans, and I think they should not be forced to reveal what should be a private belief.
Speaking of parents, I don't want 100 parents at my door tomorrow.
The only thing I would add is that my guess is if you polled my students, I don't think they'd have a clue whether I was religious or not. And I think that's the biggest compliment to me. I don't think that they would be able to tell you that I'm not religious, and I don't think they would tell you I was religious. Some of them might think they know just because I said something one day. But my job is to play devil's advocate in my classroom every day. That's what I do. And I think a lot of my kids get confused by what I actually believe. But that's my job as a teacher, because it's not my job to welcome with my personal beliefs. I leave that outside. That has nothing to do with my job.
Yeah, one lesson we get in the teacher education programs is to be completely democratic in our classroom. And part of that is not bringing your own beliefs into it.
In fact, not even using the word belief. I tell my students that we have a list of no-no words that they're not allowed to talk about, and we talk about why. I mean, I'm not just saying that it's that there are a list of four-letter words that are that I'm not going to allow. It's just a matter of discussing words that if you get used to using the language of teaching, when you're in a public setting in a K-12 school, you have to follow the laws of what you're allowed to teach as a public teacher, and we're not. In a sense, if you're getting licensed as a science teacher, you're not getting licensed to teach comparative religion or theology. So, that I happen to share that in my background with my teachers, my pre-service teachers, partly because I don't come from a Christian background, and I want them to be educated and I'm comfortable talking about it, and that's why I bring that up. But I tell them that we never talk about belief in evolution, because that's not how scientists talk about evolution. It's nothing that we believe in. It's not a philosophy or a religion. And I think that if we move away from that word of belief and replace it with accept evidence, then I think it's an easier discussion in the classroom.
By definition, science education should be agnostic. I'm sorry.
Just like long division.
Just like
I guess I have been tuning into this debate for a number of years, and I've read a number of books about it, watched all the videos, I saw Judgment Day and all that. And I guess I would like just to ask an opinion question then. For a parent who has a child in school, a public school, and if these parents, this is not me, I don't have any kids, but if they have a strong Christian belief and they believe that the Bible is the inspired Word of God, and that it clearly differs in the subject of origins from what you're teaching their kids, and certainly it differs in in how man himself is presented. Whereas they may say that in evolution you're basically presenting man as an intelligent, evolved animal and nothing more. Whereas God created man in the Bible, and man has a spirit. He is distinguished from animals clearly. So how would you then, if they came to you and said, I don't want my kids being taught a godless philosophy and worldview, and you can say it's science-based, but you have your own way of interpreting the evidence, and we don't look at that evidence in the same way. So I don't want my kids learning that, and you could easily say, well, then send them to a public or a private school. But the problem is, a lot of parents don't have that kind of money to send their kids to a private school. So then how do you assuage their issue with this?
I can answer that. I've answered this question at least 20 times. Not here in Colorado, but back in Arkansas when I taught there. I would get this every year, 2 or 3 times. When I would even bring up evolution, the kids would go home and tell their parents, and they would call me, saying just what you said. And I almost had a script ready because, I don't want to get in an argument at all because you're going to kind of lose because you're totally 2 different sides. Science in school, religion is completely different. So I would just say it's in the state standards, and your kid will learn it, or they'll fail that section on the test. I mean, simply, and I did not want to argue. And I said, you're welcome to argue with my principal or superintendent, whoever you choose to, but that's what's going to happen. And it never went past that.
But I think it's useful to add at that point. And if Jimmy doesn't want to accept it, that's okay. I mean, I think that's a useful thing to add. Teachers have told me they've had good luck with basically that approach, which you obviously had good luck with, but sort of, Mrs. Brown, it's my job as Jimmy's teacher to present him with, the standard scientific view, which is that all creatures had common ancestors and natural selection works, and there's these other mechanisms of pattern process, the big idea, basically the 3-part idea that I started out with. And Jimmy has to learn this because it's in the state standards and he has to pass the test. If Jimmy can accept or reject it, I don't care. That's up to you, that's up to him. But he has to know the material to pass the test. Whether he accepts it or not is his business. There's something magical about that. Because what Mrs. Brown's biggest worry is that Jimmy's going to learn it and he has to believe it. And of course, the fear is that if he believes it, then he's going to give up his faith and he's going to, be lost to salvation, and everything will crumble. And it's a serious worry, just like you articulated. And that's not what education's all about. Education is about learning. He doesn't have to believe it. He just has to learn. Now, we would like it if you would accept modern science, but if it's, that's not our job. Our job as teachers is to teach it. And there's something really quite wonderful. It does assuage the concerns of the parent, right?
The other line that works for me sometimes is just saying, if you want to argue against something, you better understand it. And that seems to work a lot, even with parents. I've only had one in 10 years, one parent really come after me. And when I said that to him, I said, do you want me to understand, would you like me to understand your side better to be able to talk to you against it, if that was my stance? He said, yes. I said, okay, I'm asking your student to understand the side of science. And then that way they understand what they're arguing against if they decide to argue against it. And to be honest, that really quiets them quickly. Because and I actually had kids over the years, I believe this, I'm watching it from afar, but have been very resistant to it, decided to look at it as an educational experience, not about changing their beliefs, and walked out fairly enlightened. And I think sometimes their own beliefs were strengthened, but I think they felt good about understanding what all the fuss was about. And I think that was kind of empowering to some of those kids. So that's something that I've experienced.
I think the other point that really needs to be made is that whereas, as I said, evolution is the pointing end of the stick, someone, a physics teacher here brought up that cosmology is also similarly rejected. Some must be geology, some must be a lot of chemical evolution. Almost every part of mainstream science is going to be rejected by that viewpoint. And so it's a profound rejection. And so I don't get that many calls. I get calls occasionally. My favorite one was when a parent told me that their daughter was hearing things that they'd never heard before. And I said, well, then you've done the right thing by starting at the university.
A physical anthropology colleague of mine who teaches at a community college in a state in the southeast that I will not identify, once called me and said, this is a magical kingdom here. She said, I had these students in my class, introductory physical anthro course, it's evolution from beginning to end, and these kids had never, ever had evolution. I mean, they're